Good evening, YouTube. Virgil here with Plain Places Adventures, doing a Comanche sim flight to Galveston Beach. This is a practice for what I hope to be a real flight coming up in January to go see a friend in Corpus Christi. It's actually quite a ways from Pensacola to Corpus, and so we're going to have to one hop it, and Galveston Beach is right at about 3 hours, and max range on our Comanche with stock fuel tanks. So get started. Actually, for those who are interested, I'll walk through sort of how I tend to flight plan with the Garmin Pilot app. So that's what we're going to do here first. So let me switch to the app focus here. So to get started in the flight plan, I've just plugged in my departure out of Roscoe Field with destination Galveston. So now I'm going to pop this out. You can hit this little flight plan button. It'll zoom it to the extent of the plan. I know I don't really want to go over that much water. I know leaving here, if I go direct Gulfport VOR, that's usually a pretty good routing. So that's why I'm going to rubber band here. So what that'll do is that'll bring us off across Mobile Bay, but keep us sort of just over land. Now if we sort of look, that'll bring us across Lake Pontchartrain, but we should be in roughly gliding distance of either shore there, and sort of on the north side of the New Orleans Class Bravo, which is probably something they'd be okay with. And then again, we get out here and give us a little more scenery and keep us again off this overwater leg. Looks like if I rubber band us up to this Sabine Pass VOR, now I've got a pretty nice route that's not actually going to add a whole lot of time to the flight. So now if I go back into flight plan, you can see that right now it's booked at 3 hours and 7 minutes. What we can look at here is hit the altitude, and this is going to pull the current winds aloft. Fair bit of headwind is Y. Not much advantage to going lower. We're headed towards the even state, so let's say 8,000. All right, so put in 8,000. Again, about just over 3 hours. And that's basically booked at max performance. And then if we were doing real IFR, we could create the trip, file it, all that sort of stuff. So real IFR, I'd actually have to go a little shorter for reserves. But in the sim here, it'll be okay. So we can go back to our map. Go ahead and center us up on where we are. And now let's switch back to the sim. So I wanted to load the same thing in the Garmin 750. So we're going to go into the flight plan. Pull up the flight plan over here, route mode, or the route view. So we've got 82J to GPT. Gulfport, yes. Then to SBI. Interesting. It says there's 2, so let's hit find. Search. Sabine. Yeah, Sabine Pass, yep. And then KGLS. Enter. Now we can go back to our map, zoom this out. And this looks like the same route, so that's always good. Alright, so let's go in the cockpit here. And let's go ahead and fuel up. This is the A2A Comanche, very similar to the Comanche I fly in real life. We're going to go ahead and top us off. Go ahead and clear this totalizer. Normally I'd need to hit both buttons, so we can do it this way. Always good to make sure your totalizer's set before you go. Alright, so now we're set. Our on course is 274. Let's get our, so we're going to go ahead and bug that. On our HSI. Alright, got that. Let's see what our local weather's looking like. Altimeter at Navy Pensacola is 2983. Uh, 2983. Looks about right. And winds are out of the south at 6, so we can take off on 18. That's good. We've got our autopilot on standby. We're going to go ahead and get the fuel pump on for takeoff. All our lights on. Don't need the PDOT heat unless we go in the clouds. We do have a mixture rich prop forward. Parking brake to go. Good time again to get get the EFB in track mode, so it'll follow us as we go.
Are you going to mobility anything at any point?
So we're departing 82 Juliet, Roscoe Field, Pensacola. We're going to be headed to Galveston, Texas via New Orleans, basically. Gulfport, Mississippi on the way. Yeah, we got SOC confirming slight right crosswind. We got airspeed alive. We're going to rotate. We're going to get that gear coming up. We're going to go to 500 feet. We've got a 700-foot hard ceiling because the Blue Angels Airport's right off our nose to the left. As we approach 500, we're going to throttle back to keep our speed reasonable. No more than 30-degree bank in the pattern.
You do press the button before you
Oh my god. She's over there. Whoosh.
Can you see the lid of that? No, it looks like a shot glass. No, it's
How'd she do it at the restaurant?
right here.
There's our Winn-Dixie supermarket over the nose. Airport back on our left. We're going to aim for the bay, and once we sort of hit the water, then we're safe to basically turn on course. Around here, we'd start working on picking up our clearance from Pensacola approach.
She ate really, really good.
Y'all busy again?
Welcome everybody. We just departed Roscoe Field, Pensacola, Florida, headed to Corpus Christi, Texas in the A2A Comanche. Virgil, I fly a real Comanche or 59 Comanche in real life, and so really enjoy flying one in the simulator as well. And we're just going to assume at this point Pensacola has cleared us on course, and usually here they're going to clear us first to probably about 3,000 feet. We want to direct enter on our GPS. Climb check out of 1,000 feet. We can get that fuel pump off. And we confirm gears up, and the amber light is on. We're looking for about 120 cruise climb. And somewhere around here, we've probably gotten clear of, actually out of 3,000 typically. So you got to get to 1,700 feet actually with your own obstacle clearance. That's NVA, minimum vectoring altitude out here. Above this, now they would likely clear me on up to 8,000 or filed altitude. They're looking down Perdido Bay out to Perdido Pass in Orange Beach, Alabama. Looking north along the Florida Alabama border that direction. And we can reactivate also on the EFB side.
She didn't get too out there, luckily. I was worried about that. I had to stop her from trying to climb up on top of it. Oh, she wanted to be a big girl.
Here, coming into visible moisture, so good idea to get the PDOT heat on. Plenty warm out, so freezing shouldn't be a worry right now, or ice.
Everything I say, she's like, no, actually, the ABC board says, listen here, fucking Susie, I don't give a fuck about any of that shit.
Hey there, Phoenix Sales. Thanks for joining. We're climbing out of Pensacola en route to Corpus Christi. This is Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 using the A2A Simulations Comanche. running the TDS GTN 750 add-on for the GPS, and I'm running the real Garmin Pilot on my iPad mini for my electronic flight bag. And we're climbing to 8,000, the planned final altitude for this evening. Still looking good on outside air temp. It's about 55.
Okay, Sandra. Okay, Sandra.
I'm about to have a stroke. I just said I want what I said.
You opened me up for that one. You opened me straight up for that
Yeah, that's really, whether you use ForeFlight or Garmin Pilot, it's a really, really good way to practice using an EFB, because you can connect it to the simulator and work all the functions as if you were in the real airplane. I found that saved, a lot of hours of familiarity. Same with the GPS. The 750 here is very similar to the 650 that I have in my Comanche, so learning all the procedural buttonology in the sim makes you more confident in the airplane, and is a lot cheaper. They're both pretty easy if you're, I think with both, if you're using Microsoft Flight Simulator, you use the free Flight Events app to connect. And then if you are using X-Plane, then you can still do it. I think it's just a different middleware, basically, that you use to connect the sim. And it looks like tops are right here at about 8,000. Yep, here's sort of realistic. A lot of times it's always amazing when you climb through a layer and pop out the top. Looks like we've actually got ground below us. We're at just about over Foley, Alabama now, a place we go to often in our videos in real life. And I'll start paying attention here to the level off. So we're going to level, and we want to go ahead and let her accelerate while we leave the throttle all the way in. And you don't need to be in a rush to pull back the power. I've got my Comanche cruise power chart here. So 8,000 feet, 65% power. We're looking at about 20.7 inches of manifold pressure. Once we pull the prop back to 2,300. So we can go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to pull the prop back first. And as you pull the prop back, the manifold pressure is going to come up a little bit. And we're looking for about 20.7. And then at this point, we also can start getting the leaning in. A lot of times above 5,000, I'll lean a little bit incline just to keep giving best power. And if we sort of zoom in here, might be hard to see on the stream. I'm looking for about 13 gallons an hour, CHT somewhere in the 14 to 1500 range, with the engine still being smooth. Again, I'm trimming in stages as the airplane accelerates. You have to keep adding a little bit of nose down, but it's not really a linear process. It goes in spurts. This is a good time. We're sort of tracking well, so we'll get the autopilot on track, and we'll get the autopilot on altitude hold. Again, cruise check. So we got power set, prop set, we got the fuel pump off, gears up, that's about all there really is for the cruise check-in, the Comanche. Looks like we're sitting well right in the tops here. Pop out and look around. Graphics and flights, Microsoft Flight Sim are really pretty amazing, pretty realistic. Definitely come a long way since I've been flight simming since the mid-'80s. Even back then, the simulators were very useful procedurally, but today they're just sort of next level. So we're now still over southern coastal Alabama. Our emergency airport right now in the glide ring is sunny Callahan Fairhope. Other airports in a lot of our videos. My co-pilot Maddie, that's where she did her first Comanche landings back in early summer this year. So again, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe, and go back through our library. It's mostly real Comanche flying, but as we come into winter, we switch back to a little more simulator work when it gets dark sooner. Hoping, let's see, looking ahead, it's ceilings ahead. If we look at Pascagoula, they're calling it 8,000 overcast with scattered below, or 8,000 broken, so that'll be interesting to see what the sim does. We're running real weather. I did change the time just a little bit, so we had daylight. Getting a little bit of ground contact back there again as we come on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay. Yeah, Phoenix, the instrument, the sim's really great for instrument training. Can really work on situational awareness and practice approaches. Even scan, if you put yourself in the clouds, depending on whether you're learning with a 6-pack or a TAA, you can get a cockpit that's hopefully pretty similar to what you train in. So some fun things you can do. Again, with the 650 or 750, if we go into utilities, I do this a lot in the real airplane. What's our true airspeed right now? Showing 161 knots. The Sim Comanche is about 4 knots faster than mine. It's pretty much book values that A2A did, and honestly probably book values even back in the 50s were a bit generous, but it's pretty close. We've got the other thing is we got 14 knots of headwind component because the wind's at a 255, so that's basically we're slowed down not only by the headwind component, but because we have to crab into that wind, we lose a little bit more of effective forward speed. So that's what we're seeing here. I don't recall, let's see, can we, waypoint info. Oh, hey Russ, cool. It's amazing to both Maddie and I, all the people we've met and crossed paths with now. So yeah, the one thing the sim won't do is it won't pull the weather data into the 650, but of course I do have the weather data on the EFB from the internet. And then Microsoft's getting the weather basically from the same internet sources to match it up. Put the flight bag back on here. A lot of times, even when I'm IFR, I still run with the sectional for situational awareness, particularly in an emergency. If I've got a traffic situation, then I'll go to the easiest way to declutter is just to go into the IFR chart mode. And now we've got this really nice clean display, highlights any weather. So again, we've got just a little bit of light rain behind us. highlights and makes, you know, any ADSB traffic super visible, and still will give you basically where your nearby airports are. It just doesn't give you, you know, the other roads or other context to help spot them, and when you know, if you're trying to find an airport you've never been to. Coming up on Dolphin Island on the left, that they're closed for a couple months, I assume for repaving. I haven't been over that way by air to sort of check out what's going on the ground, but usually a 60-day closure I would assume is some sort of lighting or paving work. We were lucky that we got in there a couple different times a few weeks ago just before they closed, because that's certainly one of our favorite spots. So Russ, what type of airplane are you planning to do your instrument training in? Yeah, and here we're breaking out with a view of the western shore of Mobile Bay. Cherokee 180, good solid platform for sure. Only got a few hours in Warriors and Archers and a few hours in Arrows back when I was starting on my commercial rating many years ago. But definitely solid airplanes. Family friend, owned an Arrow for a long time, I think about 30 years. Yeah, Blanca, that's cool too. Maddie and I are thinking about a high wing 2-place or, you know, 2+2 type vintage something at some point for some more of the backcountry and sightseeing, or if we're able, maybe going bigger for a mall that we could eventually put on floats. Wow, 46. Definitely. So is that a super cruiser? So coming over this, it's actually an island. I didn't know that till I looked at the chart real close, but this little section here south of Mobile before Dolphin Island is itself an island. Yeah, Cruise Air Senior, really neat. Very classic airplane. You'll get front row parking in vintage at Oshkosh once you've got that restored, I'm sure. They always like to put those front and center. So we're about 50 miles out from Gulfport VOR, which is our first dog leg. And it says we've got 2 hours and 28 minutes en route to go. This flight is a dry run for a run to Corpus Christi, hopefully in January, to visit one of our friends for the weekend. And so again, love to use the sim to check out new airports. Oh, neat. So Blanca reunion, I guess, yeah, it's at least on the decadal year for the 46s. Next year is also the Comanche 75th, I think, at Oshkosh. So the Comanches are one of the airplanes that'll get special attention in vintage. So we got the Dolphin Island Causeway coming up, and just peeking out of the clouds is Bayou La Batre. Those of you who watch Forrest Gump, Bayou La Batre's this town right here at this inlet. It's where all the shrimp boats are for out southern Alabama. There's also an old river casino boat docked there that rumor has it might get sunk as a scuba reef here in the next couple of years. It's been sitting there for at least a few years since we've been flying by it. Again, always just cool to see the scenery in flight sim and how well it matches. I mean, a lot of it's pulled right from satellite imagery now, so it is sort of pretty close to real life. Again, this is biolaboratory here now, just in front of the airplane. As we sort of head for the Mississippi border. Yeah, even Flight Sim 2000, which was 98 and 2000 were major upgrades in the Microsoft history. Certainly nowhere near the Sims today, but they really did, even then, give you a fair bit of information for VFR practice, just in situating airports to roads and rivers and other landmarks. And look up ahead. So Pascagoula is still calling an 8,000 foot ceiling. And let's see, up at Keesler Air Force Base is basically clear. So I think somewhere not too far up ahead, we're going to break out into clear air here. For anybody joining, we took off from Pensacola, Florida, in the A2A Piper Comanche. We're IFR to Galveston, Texas. It's going to take us first over Gulfport, Mississippi, and then just north of New Orleans as we sort of hit the Louisiana coast and then the northeast Texas coast onto Galveston Island. We're at 8,000 feet, truing out about 160 knots, but we do have about a 15 knot headwind at the moment. We're expecting this cloud layer to give way somewhere in the next 30 or 40 miles to mostly clear skies for a little better view. We're in south of Mobile, Alabama now, about 10 miles east of Pascagoula. If you in the Pascagoula area, they have an airport cafe that serves breakfast and lunch most weekdays. They have special pricing if you fly in, but you can drive in and eat as well. It's right at the FBO. Really good southern breakfast, especially I like their biscuits and gravy particularly. Stennis, which is Stennis International, we haven't had a chance to stop at. They also have a cafe with breakfast. And for higher end fare, there's a great restaurant at New Orleans Lakefront for lunch and brunch. I think they even serve dinner. It's in their restored Art Deco terminal, and if you don't need gas, you can actually park right in front of the terminal and don't have to pay any landing fees. So there's a couple of videos back in our history of going into Lakefront. We'll definitely be back there sometime in the next couple months, and hopefully get a trip out to Stennis to try out their cafe. Starting to see the Mississippi barrier islands out there. Port of Pascagoula sort of will be coming up as these clouds give way. Got major shipyards at Pascagoula building littoral combat ships and other and oil rigs and other things. There, we're starting to see Pascagoula out the left window. You too, Russ. Thanks for stopping in and saying hi. Hi, Bernie. Where are you from? Alabama, great. Southern or central north. I'm fairly familiar with southern coastal Alabama and only really I-65 to the north. Great. So our neck of the woods, we fly a real Comanche out of Pensacola, do a lot of flying in the southern Alabama area.
Well, actually, I tried to call you, but you didn't answer.
Yeah, so we're based in Pensacola. My wife grew up in Mobile, and so we're in Alabama quite a lot. Double checking. We still got the PETA heat on, being in the clouds here. We're going to watch that manifold pressure. If that starts to drop, we might need to pull carburetor heat. That's definitely an issue in the Comanche. Invisible moisture at lower cruise settings, which we are. We're 25 miles from Gulfport VOR in Mississippi, which is our first dog leg. And then from there to Sabine Pass, and they're direct to Galveston. Based on the weather, we're expecting this cloud layer to give way somewhere here over Mississippi. And here we are breaking out. Then we got Biloxi ahead off the nose. Ocean Springs before that. One of the first videos we ever posted was actually landing into Ocean Springs Airport, which is right here where I've got the mouse. Pretty small airport, but the closest to the casinos in Biloxi, although good luck getting an Uber from there into town. The city of Ocean Springs right ahead of the airplane, the main highway in, basically the old highway from Pascagoula. Right in the bottoms of the clouds now, hoping this layer is going to give way, so we got a good view for the evening. Lots of rivers and bayous in Mississippi, makes for really pretty flying. Yeah, we're coming right up on Biloxi, so across that little water gap is Biloxi proper, toward the Atlantic City or Vegas of the South. I think it's 11 active casinos in town these days. Keesler Air Force Base as well. Common destination for many people who've spent any time in the Air Force. Hop back in the cockpit here. Basically Swedish way back, but basically American since the late 1800s. And start again, maybe go, there we go. We get our view of Biloxi. We've got Keesler Air Force Base right up ahead. I don't know about, I suppose Swedes were all Vikings at some point, but that was quite a while ago. All right, for you any casino enthusiasts, first casino there is Golden Nugget, where my mouse is. Margaritaville, which is not a casino. Continue west, you've got Harrah's under the Caesars chain. You've also got Palace, which is an independent casino on the Back Bay on this side. Up ahead, you've got the Hard Rock Casino, followed by the Beau Rivage, which is the big one in town, which is an MGM property. This is Flight Simulator 2020. And then on the Back Bay, as it's called, you've got IP Casino right here, Boomtown right here, and then across the river, and doesn't appear 3D model. Oh, there, the Scarlet Pearl over here. Smaller casinos, although they used to be big. Treasure Bay, primarily right up here, and then we'll have a couple casinos in Gulfport. I have tried 2024. It's still a little, performance is still a little buggy on my machine, which is high for Flight Sim 2020 and mid-tier for 2024. So I've just been happy to stay in 2024 right now. Got Gulfport Airport. So we've got Keesler Air Force here, Gulfport Airport up ahead. We're waypointing at the Gulfport VOR, which is up on the northwest corner of the airport, and doglegging towards the southwest. This keeps us over land principally on this flight. That direct would put us over water more than we'd be comfortable with. Now we're getting into clear air, and some of these, again, really great views. I-10. Here is another interstate that goes up to Jackson, Mississippi, I believe. One of these is the Biloxi River, and again, there's a whole ton of rivers that come through here. Says when we're headed west, this is often our route. This is Gulfport VOR first, and then to other points to the southwest. Thanks for stopping in, Bernie. Anybody joining, flying the A2A Comanche in Flight Simulator 2020 to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola, Florida. My name's Virgil. I'm a Comanche pilot in real life, as you might see from our channel playlist. If you like general aviation flying, please consider subscribing. We try to put out new videos at least once a week, a lot of times more often, flying out of Pensacola to anywhere we can get to. We're at 8,000 feet, on autopilot, leaned and set up for cruise at just over 65% power and doing about 160 knots true. We've got about a 15 knot headwind. We're coming up on Gulfport, Mississippi. Electronics, we're using Garmin 750 GPS navigator, as well as the Garmin Pilot app. And with Flight Simulator, neat thing is you can drive the app on your iPad as well. Yes, we're flying the Piper A2A Comanche. Fly a Piper Comanche in real life, same model year actually. So welcome, Nicholas. Where are you from? Gulfport, Mississippi Airport. We're direct to the VOR on the airport, and then from there a slight dogleg southwest towards Sabine Pass, VOR. Let's see, I think the VOR is right there in real life. We're going to get ready to waypoint. We're going to want to change our CDI to match the new direct track once it triggers. We're headed to Corpus Christi, Texas. We've got about 2 more hours en route left, having departed from Pensacola, practicing for a real flight we hope to do in January. All right, we got waypointing enunciation on the 750. Now we're going to 264 as the new heading. Again, go ahead and change our OBS one. We got the little to from flip arrow that again tells us that we've GPS is sequenced the next waypoint. 261 nautical, Sabine Pass, but I think that's right on the Texas border. This track's going to take us about right over Diamond Head Airport and then Stennis International and then north of New Orleans. Oh, just south of Slidell Airport, across the north side of Lake Pontchartrain, south of Hammond, right over Gonzales Regional, which is where we refueled on our way to Fredericksburg, Texas, for the midlife pilot fly-in this year. And, yeah, across Lafayette. Oh. Familiar territory ahead. For those of you joining, we're on our way to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola, Florida. We're just passing over Stennis, Mississippi and the NASA test range for rocket engines. Got New Orleans up ahead to our left, sort of on the horizon behind these clouds. About 2 hours to go. We're about a third of the way there. This is practice for a real flight to Corpus Christi. We hope to make in our Comanche next January to visit a friend. Here, these are actually a lot of the rocket test stands and infrastructure for Stennis. These become restricted areas when they're doing active testing, and they'll basically not allow you to fly through, but they're cold this evening. About to go right over the airport at Stennis. So starting to pick up the Pearl River. That's the border between Mississippi and Louisiana, at least in southern at the coast. We'll bring up the GPS here, sort of show our progress. Welcome to the stream. This is Virgil with Plane Place Adventures. We're flying the A2A Comanche in Flight Sim 2020, headed to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola, Florida. We're just passing Stennis, Mississippi, and actually about to cross the Pearl River into Louisiana. We're We're using the Garmin 750 Navigator as our primary GPS, and we're also using the Garmin Pilot app on our iPad, simulating basically the same avionics package we use in our real Comanche. And passing Stennis, our next landmarks. This is Slidell, Mississippi, coming up. Slidell Airport out there towards the horizon. Behind the clouds, the causeway to New Orleans, in New Orleans lakefront, right about behind this taller cloud here. We're at 8,000 feet, still pulling pretty good headwind, still pushing about a 15 knot headwind up here at 8,000, but it was pretty much the same even lower down. So normally we want to go to 6,000 to 9,000 for best performance with the normally aspirated Lycoming 540 engine, and usually where we'll find smoother air in the summer. We're in lazy mode. We've got the autopilot on, handling altitude and track, so we can sort of enjoy the view and chat. And we'll go back to hand flying as we get into the approach terminal environment at the backside, descending into Galveston. One thing we can do is go ahead and look ahead at the weather at destination. Again, Garmin Pilot apps right now, they got wind out of the south at 6. Unlimited visibility. So, neat thing I like with Garmin Pilot, if we bring up the airport view and hit runway, we get a quick what's the best runway. So basically 18 or 14. Given our direction of flight, 18 certainly would be the preference. Let's go ahead and look at that airport diagram. So yeah, that looks fine. So now let's see what our procedures available are. So again, here we are at Galveston. We got an RNAV 18. It's a T approach. That works well for us because we could basically head to this PICIP intersection to start the T from the northeast. Bring us right in for a straight in. So we're going to go ahead and anticipate. What we can do is we can go ahead and anticipate that. We can load the procedure. RNAV 18 PICIP. And again, we're not going to activate, we're just going to load it. And basically leaving Sabine Pass, we can decide if we want to go direct to the fix or not. We're not going to brief that yet, just in case the weather changes. We got all sorts of time. And we can go ahead and load it up over here on the GPS. An LP with vertical guidance. We want PICIP, and again, we're loading, not activating. And there we are. So again, if we wanted to make double chart, we go to flight plan, and here it is below Galveston. Coming up on the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. Got passing Slidell, Louisiana Airport here. Got Hammond up to the west. We're going to go just north of Port of Louisiana Executive. Then we're going to go right over Louisiana Regional, which is the place we stopped on our way to the Midlife Pilot fly-in in Fredericksburg, Texas this year. And go ahead and check our fuel quantity, fuel pressure, oil pressure, everything as expected. And crossing over the north side of Lake Pontchartrain now. Got the causeway right in front of us. Of course, Microsoft's not quite sure because it doesn't really end there. Goes all the way across. Beautiful afternoon to be flying. Not so uncommon from a lot of the real afternoons we get out in this neck of the woods. Of course, sitting in air-conditioned desk chair comfort, it can get sweaty even up at altitude, well, at 8,000 feet. That's why we go up to 8,000 feet in the summer. It's usually might be warm while we get there, but not so bad once we're there. If you're just joining, this is Virgil from Plain Place Adventures. We're flying the virtual Comanche from A2A Simulations and Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 to Galveston, Texas as a dry run for a trip we hope to make in January all the way to Corpus Christi to see a friend for the weekend. We're on just over north side of Lake Pontchartrain now. We've got about 2 hours to go. Just enjoying a virtual coastal evening, and a lot of places we've well familiar with. Once we get past Louisiana Regional here in about 40 miles, will be a little. Actually, once we get we tread most of this till we get down to back to the Texas coast to Galveston by air. But always good to try it out in the sim before we do it in real life. If you're new to the channel and like general aviation, IFR, VFR, and classic vintage airplanes, check us out, like and subscribe. We try to put 1 or 2 new videos a week up of our real world flying, but when the weather, maintenance, or winter keeps us on the ground, we switch back to the simulator. If you've got questions or comments, we always like feedback about everything we do, and we enjoy sharing aviation, real and virtual, with other people. For the navigation tonight, we're using the Garmin 750 plug-in, which simulates pretty close to the 650 we use in the real airplane, as well as the Garmin Pilot app, which is or at least my preference for electronic flight bag right now, and then my co-pilot Maddie is a ForeFlight user. Well, next airport's ahead. We've got New Orleans. Off to our left, you can see the Mississippi River there curving around. We've actually got a video up when we flew the Mississippi from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, all the way past the French Quarter in downtown New Orleans at 1,000 feet in our Comanche. Check that out. We're going to have Port of Louisiana coming up on the left, and then we're going to just about overfly Louisiana Regional, which is featured in a couple of our other videos on the way to the Midlife Pilot podcast in Fredericksburg, Texas earlier this year. If we needed gas, that'd be a great stop. They've got really low priced avgas and very friendly service. We're at 8,000 feet. cleaned up for cruise, trimming out at about 160 knots. Not too much faster than the real Comanche. At least my real Comanche is about 157 and 13 gallons an hour. But we do have a bit of a headwind, so we're only getting a ground speed of around 144 knots tonight. As Maddie would say, we always seem to have a headwind, but that just means we get more hours in the air, which is something we really enjoy. We've got comment, question. We always like interaction and sharing aviation. Here we're looking north towards Hammond, Louisiana. This is Lake Maurepas, which I am totally butchering. This is where sectional charts pretty handy, so we can go into north up here, sort of see what these things are, what these places are named. I do a lot of using the sectional in real flight. Again, get place names, get really good situational awareness of towns, roads, other landmarks, possible emergency landing spots, and reading a sectional just really makes it easier to pick out airports day or night, what to look for and where to look. Often you see what's around the airport before you see the airport itself, and as you learn to be able to do that, it takes some of the moves guesswork to educated guesswork as you're trying to go into new places, which is, you know, one of the exciting things as a general aviation pilot is, and being a U.S. pilot is, we can just sort of take off and go places. Big adventure is just hitting new airports. We just went over 200 airports lifetime, and hope to keep working that total up. Eventually get certainly all the public airports in Florida and Alabama is a life goal we want to try and go for. And the more people support the channel, the more we can make that a reality. Go ahead and move our view back to the south here. That's the Mississippi River. We're going to be going by Port of Louisiana Executive Airport. Might seem odd that you have a port that's over 100 miles up the river, but Mississippi River, of course, is navigable way into the interior. So we do have ships of all type coming from overseas and well up the river to unload or load respective cargoes. If you're a Mississippi River buff, check out our video playlists. We flew the river about 130 miles from Baton Rouge all the way down through downtown Louisiana, or downtown New Orleans, right past Louis Armstrong International at 1,000 feet. It's one of our most popular videos. Saw all sorts of barge traffic, and of course great views of downtown at low altitude, courtesy of New Orleans Approach, who was very accommodating on our river tour and let us cleared us into the Class B right on the river, right within a couple miles of the airport. And we'll pull the GPS back up here so people can sort of keep track of where we are. So again, we're northwest of New Orleans at 8,000 feet, passing by KAPS, which is Reserve, Louisiana, Port of Louisiana Regional. It's an airport still on our to-visit list. We've flown near it, over it, multiple times, but never had a reason to drop in. 20 miles ahead, we have Louisiana Regional, which we did visit on the way to the Midlife Pilot podcast for a fuel stop, where we also met up with 2 other airplanes headed to Fredericksburg, Texas, and we IFR caravan from there the rest of the way. According to the sectional, this is the Blind River below us and ahead. And clearly some canals built as well. Next big town is Gonzales, Louisiana. Pop back in, do our periodic cruise check, making sure everything on the engine looks as expected. We sort of zoom in here to the engine monitor. So cylinder head or exhaust gas temperatures in the high 1400s. That's sort of what we want to expect. We see we've got about 13 to 13.5 gallons an hour. We've got cylinder head temps topped out at 363, which is quite comfortable. Anything really under 415 is okay, and definitely under 400 is okay. They're doing just fine. Oil pressure 74. So looking good there. We don't have fuel pressure on that 830, so we do want to not ignore the fuel pressure, and of course keeping an eye on the oil temp. All looks good. Hey Joey, thanks for the comment. So let's see, HAB is, let's check that out. Oh, Marion County, Hamilton, Alabama. All right, so let's see where that is. So 5,500 foot with services right on a sectional chart line. Oh, I got to turn on the, let me turn on the EFB so people can see. So I went into airports, looked it up. So it's Marion County. And now if I hit the little airport symbol here, it'll jump the sectional right to where that is. Now I'm going to carefully zoom out so I don't lose context. All right, so yeah, very northwest Alabama. Cool. Yeah, we were just been through Columbus twice this year. Once on the way back from Oshkosh, and once actually more recently on the way back from Minnesota for some maintenance or 1,000-hour gear AD on the Comanche. So cool, definitely something to check out. If we stop in there, any recommendations for restaurants or things to do? And just again, orientation for people who've dropped in. We're in the A2A Piper Comanche 250. We're on our way to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola. We're about to cross the Mississippi River near Gonzales, Louisiana. We've got about an hour and 40 minutes flight time remaining. This is Virgil from Plain Places. I fly a 59 in real life Comanche out of Pensacola, Florida, and really enjoy sharing aviation, real and virtual, with whoever wants to listen and watch. This is Flight Simulator 2020. Really amazing what you can do in a flight simulator these days. Just the quality of the graphics and the realism is pretty top notch. This is an area we've flown through about 4 times this year already, and it looks pretty much like it looks in real life. Sort of nondescript, but that is Southern Louisiana Regional right there ahead of the nose. Great place for a stop and cheap gas if you're in the area. If you're just joining the stream, this is Virgil from Plain Place Adventures. We're in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 tonight, practicing a trip to Galveston, Texas. We hope to do a weekend trip to Corpus Christi in January to visit a friend. So just sort of previewing the route and where our most likely fuel stop, assuming good weather. We're getting close to halfway now, about to cross the Mississippi River at Gonzales, Louisiana. Beauty is, and we've got an amazing virtual Comanche from A2A Simulations, very close to the real thing and very close, reasonably closely configured to our own airplane in terms of avionics, so good for cross-country practice and orientation. We're simulating IFR tonight, although the IFR is sort of behind us at this point, So we're at 8,000 feet, 160 knots. Southwest southwest bound for Galveston. If you're popping in and hanging out, feel free to introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're interested in. If you're just joining, we're on our way to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola, Florida, and the A2A Comanche. Just crossed the Mississippi River at Gonzales, Louisiana. Next waypoint is Sabine Pass, VOR, near the Texas-Louisiana border. And from there into Galveston, expecting an RNAV 18 approach here in about an hour and a half. This is practice for a real trip we plan to do in January, all the way to Corpus Christi to visit a friend for a weekend. So always fun to preview these trips in the simulator, give us an idea of what we're going to see in real life. We're flying with the TDS Garmin 750 plug-in. It's a good approximation, or more featured approximation of the Garmin 650 we have in the airplane. And I'll bring it up here. We're also using the Garmin Pilot app on our iPad. The simulator, the neat thing is it will connect to the sim just like it connects, almost just like it connects to the real GPS in the airplane. So it's good for practice. Reeseville, Wisconsin, great. Oh yeah, so you caught our live stream at Oshkosh. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Of course, Oshkosh is always a blast, but live streaming at Oshkosh was really next level. We had a Comanche friend loan us a Starlink connection, so we had good bandwidth. definitely planning to buy a Starlink ourselves. Actually, here soon to live stream at fly-ins and aircraft campouts is sort of our plan. We hope over the winter here, and then going into Sun and Fun next year. And of course, all lead up to Oshkosh 2026, which will be the 75th anniversary of the Piper Comanche in vintage. So we definitely plan to have 5.7 Papa there for the show again for the 3rd year in a row. Negotiating with the other plane partners right now of who gets the privilege to fly the Comanche in and out, but definitely plan to have it there, and we plan to be there. Maddie will be on her new Navy assignment by then, so TBD if she'll be able to join, but she's definitely going to do her best to come to Oshkosh as well. And of course, passenger Princess Dina should be there with us as well. Our main channel, the main point of our channel is in real life flying, but the simulator, do want to show that the sim has a lot of use when we can't fly, either because the airplane's in maintenance or the weather's bad, or with daylight savings time gone now. Of course, it gets dark early. Where we're based is not a great airport for night flying, so we tend to avoid that whenever possible. And do any night currency work elsewhere, but that complicates things because the closest airports are, instead of 5 minutes from our house, start to be 40 minutes from our house, so definitely changes the logistics of using the airplane. Looking ahead, we've again, going to be crossing Louisiana now, on our way to Galveston. We're going to pass south of Lafayette and south of Lake Charles. We're going to hit the coast just south of Lake Charles, on our way to Sabine Pass VOR, and then we'll make a turn for direct to Galveston. Oftentimes, like I'm doing here, I'll do in the airplane, I'll have either the EFB or the GPS zoomed out for sort of long distance situational awareness, and then I'll have the other zoomed in, usually at 20 miles or less, for emergency situational awareness of where the close airports are in case we had an emergency. It's not always one or the other. It's depending on the type of information I'm trying to look at, whether it's weather radar or other things. I may switch back and forth between which of the two is zoomed in and which is zoomed out. Can't say I really have a hard and fast rule there, but definitely advantage to have two different map systems that you can have at different zooms, so that you can, again, try and keep that overall situational awareness going. In the real airplane, our 650 is not an XI, which means it doesn't have the glide ring capability, but the EFB app does. So more often than not, I have the EFB zoomed in and the GPS zoomed out. Where that can change if I'm trying to really understand where weather is happening, especially with the ADS-B radar. But weather radar, I may zoom out on the iPad to just has a little bigger screen to sort of figure out how the weather relates to the intended route of flight, and thinking ahead for deviations. In terms of orientation, coming up on Lake Fausse Point. Excuse my French pronunciations. And of course, lots of marsh and bayou below us. This would not be a great place for an emergency landing, other than maybe gear up in the water would probably be the safest bet. This is a lot of soft marshy ground with not a lot of road access. So you definitely want to land somewhere where you can easily get out of the airplane and hopefully to dry land or dry-ish land. Also questionable probably in some of this what cell service is like. Generally on cross countries, we're on IFR flight plans or on flight following, so that in the case of emergency, we're already connected to air traffic control. That just makes it hopefully, someone aware of a problem much earlier in the chain once you lose the ability to communicate. So Daniel, my father started flying when he was 12. So that's to say I'm second generation pilot. He was a corporate pilot. My growing up, so I've been riding an airplane since I was an infant. I've been flying airplanes since I was 15. Soloed on my 16th birthday, got my private on my 17th birthday, went on to my instrument commercial in college and first Air Force assignment. Took a 12-year break in flying, raising a family, and then got back into it about 2 years ago. So I've been flying a long time with a break, but somewhat connected to it through my father even in the break. So I'm at about 800 hours total time, looking to go ahead and pick up the torch my father has set down as a certified flight instructor this year. So I'm looking to generationally pick up that torch early next year. Not sure I really will do a lot of professional flying, but like the idea of a challenge of getting a new rating and being in a position to give back to the community like my father did his whole life. Maddie, my co-pilot, she started flying about 3 years ago in California at her last Navy assignment. Finished up her private pilot there, moved to Pensacola a couple years ago, finished up her instrument earlier this year, and hopefully will finish up her commercial late this year. So we really enjoy flying together, and again, sort of sharing experiences, young, sort of new and old, as well as new back to it. And again, hoping to not only continue to fly the Comanche together, but looking at ideas and possibilities for more of a backcountry airplane at some point. And I had the opportunity to own a small seaplane for 10 years with my dad, so would love to get a float plane again at some point. As a number two, I definitely need to keep a cross-country plane like the Comanche, but a seaplane would definitely be a load of fun. The big debate with seaplane is if you dare put it down in salt water or not. Not a lot of options for freshwater here in the Panhandle. Those options are much better as you get down into Central Florida for lakes. But maybe get them all, keep it on wheels in this area, and then seasonally get it somewhere where we can get it in freshwater. Get our GPS back up here, still winging our way across Louisiana. It's a long state, east to west, at least in southern Louisiana. When you drive it, you really get an appreciation of how far it is between Mississippi and Texas. Daniel, let me know if the stream seems back. My stats say it's healthy, but I don't always trust that. So we're coming up on Alpha Charlie Alpha Acadiana Regional. Interesting, they actually have a seaplane landing area, Class D seaplane landing area. That's definitely unusual. So that's at so you got 8,000 feet. I'm assuming that's well, again, we don't need to assume. Let's look it up. I don't know why it's trying to do that. Sometimes Garmin Pilot, when the heliport's close to a real airport, it has issues. There we go. So let's look at runways. Yeah, here we go. So seaplane runway, 5,000 feet, 1735. It's pretty interesting. And 2,000 feet, or an 8,000. It's unusual. The seaplane runway is shorter than the land runway, but such as it is. And then they do have a helicopter landing area separately designated, which is what was giving us fits there. Let's look at this in the satellite view, actually. Here, yeah, we can go to recent, go to the satellite view. Interesting. So it looks like they maybe have basically like a seaplane landing ditch. They do use seaplanes in the Louisiana bayous for the oil industry, so I'm guessing this runway is probably for that. Neat. Learn something new every day. Get our map back the way we like it. So off to the north, Lafayette, Louisiana. And we've still got Lake Charles to go before we cross into Texas. So coming back from Fredericksburg, Texas this spring, we stopped at Lake Charles for fuel. It was a really nice airport, and they had free ice cream bars in the FBO if you bought gas, and if you bought self-service gas and you ran in and got the ice cream bar quickly and ran out, you maybe still got it free. I can neither confirm nor deny. again, we're passing Erath, Louisiana, and Abbeville. It's like Chris Crusta Memorial Airport coming up at Abbeville here. There's the airport. Yeah, right here. So again, Garmin pilot says we got an hour and 20 minutes remaining. This is always good to check. We've got 2 hours and 42 minutes of fuel on board. So again, we're on track to land with at least an hour in the tanks, which is what we want to do. Good fuel flow gauge is great for that. You do need to back that up by looking at the fuel quantities, and actually, at least in our low-wing airplane, looking out the window at the caps to make sure you're not losing any fuel out a leaking cap. As fuel flow only knows what's gone through the engine, it's not going to know if you have a leak, so you want to back that up with your fuel gauges. These fuel gauges are terrible. They only have to be right when they're empty, but you can definitely tell if they're losing fuel faster than you expect. We're about an hour and 18 minutes to go. We're just over 100 nautical to Sabine Pass VOR, where we make our last dogleg to Galveston. Chose this route to keep us overland, but on the coast as much as possible. Didn't really added maybe less than 10 minutes to total flight time, but made sure that we were never really needed away from gliding to land if we had an engine problem from altitude. If you're enjoying the stream, we're flying to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola, Florida in the A2A Comanche. This is a dry run trip for a real Comanche flight we hope to do in January to Corpus Christi via Galveston for a fuel stop. If you're new to the channel, please, love to know who you are, where you're from, what your interest in aviation is, and if you haven't subscribed, it's free, and we try to post at least a couple new real life flying videos every week. Hey there, if you're just joining, we're in the A2A Piper Comanche over southern Louisiana on our way to Galveston from Pensacola, Florida. We're up at 8,000 direct to Sabine Pass VOR at the moment, where we'll turn a little more to the southwest, direct Galveston for expected RNAV 18. This is Virgil from Plain Places. If you're, feel free to drop into the comments and ask questions, give feedback, or tell us about your own aviation interests, real or simulated. Got White Lake to our left here, of course the Gulf of Mexico beyond, and Grand Lake ahead. And Lake Arthur, the smaller lake to our right. And as we're coming out on an hour out, I start thinking about the end game. So again, we're going to do a RNAV approach, even though we wouldn't really need it today, into Galveston, runway 18, based on the winds, using the T transition from PSIP or PISIP. So got the plate up here. A couple things I can sort of set ahead of time for some ease of briefing. So again, I'm looking at this RNAV 18, or final approach is 179. I'm setting that up at OBS on the VOR2 just as a memory aid. We're going to need to transfer that onto the HSI as we get to the real approach. Basically we cross Raw Wolf, which is the final approach fix at 1,800 feet. This is a LP approach. It has vertical advisory guidance, but we do need to adhere to the crossing altitudes. 6,000 foot runway at 6 feet measured sea level. Our missed approach is going to be climb straight ahead to 800 feet and then a climbing right turn to 3,000 direct delve intersection and hold. That's out here basically. So again, we've got Houston up to the north, so this missed approach is going to move us out of the way of Houston, and it's basically going to bring us into a direct entry into that hold if we needed it. Huge run in from the initial fix to the final approach fix. That's 7 miles with 200 foot of altitude loss. So what we're really going to want to do is flight plan down to 800, a lot closer, and not get low that far out. We're at 8,000 feet, needing to lose about 6,000 feet, so about 25 miles from Raw Wolf. So if we back that out about 18 miles, we don't really need to start down until we're about 18 to 20 miles before Picep, once we go direct Picep. I like to think of do these mathings well ahead of time, have it in your head, don't get surprised. ATC is trying to leave you high and dry, you know when to start asking for lower, and know where you sort of need to be and when. And again, generally your goal is to stay high as long as possible. Most of the time ATC is trying to get you lower sooner than you might want, so again, know where you want to descend. You can always ask for pilot's discretion, and if you can't, you can't, but you know, altitude is life. There's no reason to be all the way down at 1,800 feet for 7 miles before you actually need to start your 3-degree glide slope. So with that, again, we'll sort of revisit this approach, set the altimeter setting here, crossing Sabine Pass, which is up 80 miles ahead, but looks pretty straightforward. Decision heights 360, which is basically at a sea level airport. That's pretty much the ASL or AGL as well. Coming up on the Lake Charles Terminal Radar Service Area, the TIRSA, which doesn't have a ICAO equivalent airspace class, so it's not a Charlie. It's a Charlie without a requirement to be a Charlie. A lot of times these were airports with a lot of military traffic, but so who needed a radar approach control periodically, but didn't have the traffic levels to justify a full-time Charlie. So highest I've had the Comanche so far was 11,000. It's one of the things we want to do this winter, especially. We do have a portable 2-person O2 kit, so Maddie and I want to see if we can get her all the way up to 17.5 one of these afternoons. She's definitely capable of that with patience, especially on a cold day at altitude. The time I went to 11,000, it was March, actually coming out of Hammond, Louisiana, so not far from where we just flew by. I was solo, but I made 11,000 feet in 13 minutes, I think. So, again, the Comanche's a real performer with that 250 horse Lycoming engine. You can, and again, as soon as you start shaving weight off the gross weight, which is 2,800 pounds, and our empty weight's only around 1,700 pounds, so you can, if you're light, you just by again being one adult, it's a real, or even two adults, it's a real performer even in the summer. But yeah, we really want to try going all the way up to 17.5 just to say we did, because we do have the oxygen to do it safely and a pulse oximeter to monitor our own response to the oxygen and make sure it's flowing properly. Coming up on the Mermentau River to our left. And then that goes into Lower Mud Lake. Very descriptive naming. And then we'll have Calcasieu Lake up ahead as we get closer to Lake Charles. Actually, we're south. Yeah, we're coming up on Lake Charles to our right, and then we'll have Beaumont, Texas, just before we get to our waypoint. Go over, look here towards Lake Charles. Yeah, so the Comanche I own in a partnership, so we have 4 partners, and then it's shared, so it's sort of like a flying club with a lot fewer people, so it makes scheduling easier, but you still get to break up the maintenance costs. Makes total cost of ownership quite a bit better because your buy-in price is quite a bit less, and your share of the big ticket items is a quarter instead of full price. Same thing, we split hangar annual insurance basically evenly, so that our all-in cost, direct costs on the Comanche is only around $120 an hour, and if you factor in all-in, if you fly 100 hours a year, all-in cost is under $200 an hour, which means you're getting a pretty capable cross-country airplane for less than the hourly price of a trainer that you can't hardly take overnight from your local FBO or flight school. For everybody joining, Virgil from Plane Places. We're flying Flight Sim 2020 in the A2A Comanche tonight to Galveston, Texas from Pensacola. It's a dry run for a real flight we plan to make in January, all the way to Corpus Christi to visit a friend of ours. So if you're joining the stream, go ahead and say hi in the comments and where you're from, and happy to talk and answer any questions. Coming up on Holly Beach, Louisiana, and at Cameron, which is the pass here. Another mud lake up ahead. Up on the horizon is Sabine Pass, which is the Texas-Louisiana border. We've got about 50 minutes remaining, 129 nautical to destination. Past Sabine, we'll go direct to the T transition for the RNAV 18 into Galveston. But we'll be up here at altitude for quite a while. We've got 38 miles to Sabine Pass VOR, which is our last dogleg. But making good miles with the headwind, doing about 145 knots, ground speed 160 true airspeed. Go ahead and check our weather at Galveston. Garmin pilot. And they're reporting winds out of the southeast at 6, visibility unlimited, ceiling unlimited, temp 73, dew point 70, 2079 on the altimeter. Pretty low pressure, quite honestly. And we'll go ahead and get that set. We'll be going back over water for the last, for the descent in, but not too far offshore. Although it's sort of the middle of nowhere, quite honestly, that's what it is. 25 miles to go to Sabine Pass VOR, which is our last waypoint before Galveston. Sabine Pass itself is up here just ahead. That's the Texas-Louisiana border. Beaumont, Texas, up to the northwest. We took off from Pensacola, Florida about 2 hours ago, making a simulated trip to Galveston, which we hope to do in January in our real Comanche, and then from there go on to Corpus Christi to see a friend for a weekend. Flying Flight Simulator 2020 with the A2A Simulations Comanche add-on, the TDS 750 add-on, and using the real Garmin Pilot app on our iPad as our electronic flight bag. Thanks for watching. We've got about 45 minutes to go till landing. We're going to shoot the RNAV LPV. It's an LP plus V approach. Runway 18 into Galveston. Real life conditions with weather like this, we'd be shooting the visual, no doubt, but we'll go ahead and get a practice approach in. It's a standard T RNAV approach, which from this angle means we don't really have to do a lot of extra flying to go ahead and do it. And it's good practice on the avionics and our procedure. We're at 8,000 feet. Initial altitude for the approach is 2,000 feet, more or less. Means we need 24, it's 3-degree glide slope, means we'd really only need about 18 miles. Comanche's pretty fast on the descent, so we'll plan to start down about 24 miles from the final approach fix. So we're going to basically work that math backwards on the approach plate. So again, let's go ahead and look back at that. So pull that up in Garmin Pilot. So we've got a 7-mile leg from the final approach fix to the T and a 10-mile leg from our PICIP initial. So we got 17 miles there, so that means really only 7 miles before PICIP do we need to start down. That'll put us at just before the final approach fix on altitude, on speed, but not low too soon. Real life, we're really close to Houston airspace. They'd probably put us down low sooner to keep us out of arrival streams, but tonight in the sim, we're sort of here by ourselves and we can do what we want. Pass Sabine Pass. One thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and direct to that initial fix instead of the airport. So we'll be changing our flight plan active legs from here, but again, realistically, you wouldn't do that earlier than here because you don't know what you're not really sure still what the plan is. If you're new to the channel, I'm Virgil from Plane Places. I'm a commercial pilot, own a 59 Comanche, and we try to post videos once or twice a week of our real life adventures, and we also enjoy flying the sim. About to fly over the Texas Point National Wildlife Refuge. Just charted. Quite a big wildlife area. Gulf Intercoastal Waterway off to our right, threading through some of these lakes and then through canals as it heads towards Galveston. So crossing over into Texas now. Sectional on the left on Garmin Pilot app. Regular display in the Garmin 750 on the right.
I know, that's all.
9 miles to go to our waypoint. And we're at 98 miles to go to destination, not counting the approach, which will add a few miles. We're going to queue that approach up as we cross this VOR. Hopefully we'll be recording this video in real life here in January with a long weekend trip to Corpus Christi. Definitely we'll be filming that for everybody. Hopefully Maddie will go along, and I'm gonna visit an old time friend of mine who was with me at the Midlife Pilot podcast, Mary. If you've watched some of the videos of her flying the Comanche for the first time and an airplane for the first time. Just joining, we took off from Pensacola about 2 hours ago, headed to to Galveston tonight in the sim. It's Virgil from Plain Places. We fly a Comanche that looks just like this one in real life. 59 model year, same thing that the A2A Comanche in Flight Simulator was modeled after. Stock Lycoming 0540 250 horse engine. But a lot of avionics upgrades over the years. In our real plane, we're flying dual Garmin G5s with the Garmin 650 and a Trio Pro Pilot autopilot. In the sim, we're using the Garmin 650 simulator from TDS as the equivalent, and using Garmin Pilot app, sim and in real life. Pretty wild country out here along coastal Louisiana and Texas. A lot of bayou, marshland, and canals. Not a lot of good landing spots other than maybe the water with the gear up. And of course the airports are a little further from the coast on the dry land. Galveston, infamous or famous for some big hurricanes, also a very large explosive ship explosion in wartime back in the good old or bad old days. A lot of history in that Houston area. Flying this is definitely better than driving this. The I-10 stretch across Louisiana and into Texas seems like forever. I suppose the only thing worse is driving I-10 all the way across Texas. Actually starting to see the eastern side of Galveston, the Galveston Bay. Way off there in the distance.
Oh no, she already dropped them off.
Alright. Hopping into the cockpit for our waypointing. We got a mile to go. Going to be ready to change the Nav1 course to the new heading here in a minute.
But yeah, I mean, I've got like a whole basket full of stuff.
we're going to 239, so we're going to go ahead and dial that. Again, doesn't matter what you set when you're on GPS with the HSI. The needle is the GPS, but for situational awareness and housekeeping, you always want to keep that pointed. Well, that's Daniel. That's pretty good history. The Bridge Busters, definitely pretty famous stuff. And all right, so it looks like we've successfully waypointed. Let's go ahead and cue this approach. So, easiest way, if we go into direct to, then we say flight plan. And we want to go to PICEP to IF. We're going to activate that. All right, 249 is our direct to. Not too far off our current heading. And again, you can see the autopilot's already steering for it. Over on the EFB, we need to do the same thing. We're going to go into that flight plan. We're going to go to PICEP, and we're going to go direct to. That should sequence us now that everything's going to sequence for the approach. We're going to keep an eye on that. We don't need to activate anything more. That a GPS should sequence for us. One way we can check is let's go into the flight plan. And now we can see again what's the next waypoint. It's Omehu and then Rawuf. So again, it's not trying to take us to the airport and back or something weird. So we should be good. Again, the earlier you can do these sorts of things, the better. You can see the GPS actually starting to try and give us a top of descent. Now that's based on those minimum crossing altitudes, which are unrealistic. Typically, we've decided we're going to start down at about 7 miles from PICEP. Which is still going to come up here pretty fast. We move a little more than 2 miles a minute at cruise in the Comanche, so we're looking at about 12 minutes to top of descent. Thanks, Daniel, for your grandfather's service. That's a big deal. Definitely airborne troops have always a high-risk job, was especially high risk during World War II. I had a fairly low-risk job in the Air Force for 5 active, 7 reserve. And Maddie's been shipboard on the Navy a number of times, supporting aviation maintenance and keeping their airplanes running. She'll be heading again somewhere for the Navy in aviation maintenance support coming up soon. We are lined up with the Intercoastal Waterway. We are direct Picep, our initial approach fix on the T, standing by at about 7 miles to start our descent to 2,000 feet to start at the top of this approach. This is an RNAV LP plus V, which means it's really a non-precision, but it's got advisory vertical guidance on a 3-degree slope that we're definitely going to use. We still need to make sure we honor the crossing restrictions at the fixes. The minimum descent altitude is only 350 feet above ground level. The airport's only at 6 feet measured sea level. We've got the GPS and auto zoom, so what it'll do is as we get further and further down this approach, it's going to zoom to sort of keep the next waypoint in view. It'll zoom in as we get close, it'll zoom back out as we sequence. That's standard behavior. I found that removes a little bit of workload on an actual approach rather than trying to constantly go in and out, and gives you sort of that extra precision view as you need it, although you're generally, again, you should be flying these off your CDI needles, not off the display. But in a pinch, the display really will do the job. We're going to be releasing a video showing a partial panel approach I did recently with just a turn and bank and the Garmin Pilot app to show that, you know, wasn't nearly as pretty as an LPV with the G5s, but you can definitely pull it off. If you're just joining, we're about 15 minutes from landing at Galveston. We departed Pensacola about 2 hours and 20 minutes ago in the A2A Comanche. This is a dry run for a real trip we hope to make in January in our real-life Comanche. And actually, it looks like the Garmin's plotting this top of descent pretty close. Again, we said 7 miles. We're at 14 now. That looks awful lot like what my mental math says. Again, that's to hit the final approach fix, which is still a good 17 miles past the initial fix at 1,800 feet, which is the crossing altitude. As we hit the descent, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to disengage altitude hold on the autopilot. We're going to let the autopilot maintain the lateral nav for the initial descent, and then as we come on to the turn to the final, we'll turn off the autopilot. We're using Flight Simulator 2020 here. I have 2020 and 2024. I find 2020 runs more smoothly on my system, which is about 5 years old. And so I really, I try out 2024 after each performance patch and usually go back to 2020 because I'd rather have high performance, low stutter than the bleeding edge in visuals. The Comanche, the A2A Comanche in both versions is effectively the same. They also just released an Aerostar that I haven't tried yet. Okay, so we just got Annunciation that we're a minute out from vertical track. And our top of descent, again, we're looking for 7 miles on that.
You don't remember this as her baby night yet? They cover her little legs?
I was wondering, I was like, if you
for minimum safe altitudes, you could definitely get lower, but that doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you lose an engine. So generally you want to stay high if you're allowed to stay high until it's time to go down at a reasonable descent rate. We got the intercoastal there, that cut to our left following the coastline. This is Bolivar Roads. That's the pass into Galveston Bay. A lot of history there. Big cruise ship terminal now as well. We'll be sailing out of Galveston next fall on Carnival. Sailed out of Galveston on Royal Caribbean a couple years ago. Hopefully this year, instead of making the fairly grueling drive from Pensacola, we'll be making a much nicer flight from Pensacola. Alright, now we're coming up on that 7 miles. We're going to turn off the altitude hold and throttle back initially to about 1700.
She had a sucker for breakfast the other day.
For a minute or two, and then we'll bring it on back to about 14. Shock cooling really isn't a thing, but we don't really have a reason to get real aggressive on the power down, so we won't. For a few minutes, we'll let things cool off a bit, and then we'll throttle back. And we're checking both the GPS and our EFB that the waypointing looks reasonable. It's not going to have us do something weird across the fix. And we're not sure. Again, we can go into flight plan. We're double checking that from here it should sequence to Oahu, which also matches our EFB.
There's no sides in there.
We're in about 700 foot a minute at typically Comanche speeds is what we're looking for that 3-degree glide slope. As we come down, we're going to gain a little bit of manifold pressure, so we're going to, again, keep gradually backing it off a little bit. Basically, we're going to get 1 inch per 1,000 feet, up or down. You don't really need to chase the vertical speed. We've trimmed out for the descent we want. It'll pretty much do it for us. Comanche with the right power setting and trim will pretty much fly your glide slope on rails even without an autopilot. Real good IFR platform. We're just under 2 miles to this initial approach fix, so we got 17 miles from there till we get to the final approach fix. We're going to want to cross that fix at 1,800 feet with the gear down at about 120 knots. All right, we got a right 270. So again, we're going to dial that on our OBS1. Still got the autopilot doing our lateral nav, so we're going to confirm that it picks this up. And it is. So again, we get the to from flash. Unrealistically, we're getting glide slope indication in the real system. That would not be turning on till we cross Oahu unless we're in vectors to final. So on the T, we got 9 miles to the turn to final. Our final course is a 179. Go ahead and get the charts up on the split view. So everybody can see what we're doing here on the chart. We got two different throttles set up on this PC. They're trying to fight each other over control. That's why the power's going up and down. So I just tried to override that. And again, we're trying not to boil this ocean in terms of getting way below the glide slope this far out. So we've got 6 miles to go to the turn to final, and from there, again, I really like on the new Garmin Smart Charts, basically once we turn final, we still got 7 miles from there to the final approach fix. Yeah, we've got a grandbaby in the background. She's pretty talkative tonight. They're putting up with my simulator flying. Again, unrealistically here, we're coming on glide, so we can sort of use that to cheat on not descending too early. Again, if we're in real ATC, they might be wanting us down at an altitude sooner, but in the sim, we can pilot's discretion this as long as we want. We're at a good descent speed. We're actually right at about maneuvering speed if there's any turbulence. So we're making good speed, but we're not super fast, not super slow. Relatively good, easy to decelerate from here to gear and flap speed when we need it. 3 miles to our turn. We'll have a pretty big turn anticipation here, and that's when we're keep the autopilot off. This S-Tech in the A2A sim can't really do turn anticipation. The trio autopilot we have in the real airplane can. So in the real airplane, we could definitely let the autopilot fly these aggressive turns to final. But with this type of autopilot, you could use the heading bug to try and cheat it, but we'll just take it off of autopilot entirely as it when it becomes time to turn here.
Yeah, I mean, they're all new. They're figuring it out. Everybody in the kitchen either speaks Spanish or some people don't really speak English.
Again, we're just keeping this rate of descent nice and easy. And we're going to get that turn anticipation in. Yep, starting to get it. So we'll go ahead and knock the autopilot off. We need to dial this to 179. And come around standard rate. You can see the GPS does that zoom out, zoom in as we sequence. We can zoom in the EFB as well. And again, another thing we can use to help us, the EFB's got this, both have this basically track arrow. That's your true projected track from the GPS. So what we want to do is we line that up on the magenta line. That's going to put us where we want. Now in the sim, one error is the feed to the iPad doesn't really have the wind adjustment correct, but the one to the 750 does. Again, we're gonna let this altitude keep coming down. We want to stay below the glide slope out here. So we're headed to the final approach fix. We need to cross that at or above 1,800 feet. Max gear speed on the Comanche is 150. Most of us try to put it down at 125 or less to reduce stress on the gear motor and transmission, which is a major expense item if it wears out. That's really the only speed brakes you have in the Comanche, other than putting the prop forward for a little extra braking, especially with the 3-bladed propellers like we have. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to cheat myself down just below the glide slope, a little ahead of the FAF, so I can slow down to about 130 and put that gear down as we intercept. And again, we're tracking pretty good. Got a mile to go. This is where we're going to go mixture rich, prop forward. Go ahead and we're going to level just for a sec to let that speed bleed off. And we're going to get that gear down as we intercept. Alright, we're across the FAF. So down to 900 at Sepoy. And again, we're going to use this advisory glide path to sort of help us with that. And again, with gear down on glide slope, 15, 16 inches should keep us there. Alright, we can hear the gear down. We're going to look down, confirm, gear down in green. Yeah, we're going to use those vector lines to help us get our wind correction in, push ourselves towards the center line without overcorrecting. We're holding the glide slope pretty nice. Again, pulling that power out a little by little as we descend and gain power. Looking for 354 as our minimums. There's 200 to minimums. There's 100 to minimums. minimums. Okay, we got airport runway in sight. Gonna go to 2/3 flaps. Confirmed. Gonna try and hold the glide slope. Wheels down, flaps up before we brake in the Comanche. Most Pipers in general, and we can just let her roll on this long runway. Re-grab the center. And it looks like Flight Sim's little old version compared to the new chart. That's okay. Well, thanks everybody for flying along Pensacola to Galveston in the 828 Comanche. If you haven't subscribed to Plane Places, please give us a like and subscribe. Check out our other content. Lots of real-life flying in our 59 Comanche. And always looking for ideas on what you'd like to see us do next. So have a good weekend and see you all later.